If I were to ask you, what is your value? What would you say? Have you even thought about it? When I say your value, I mean, what do you bring to the table that others don't? What do you provide other people that makes their lives better? You know, would you make a good employee? What makes you a good friend? What value do you add to the relationships that are in your life right now? You know, when we coach students and young professionals, we always tell them that if they want to be happy and successful, they have to know their value. Knowing your value and what makes you unique actually is of the utmost importance. So, in this video, that's what we're going to be discussing. Let's get to it. Okay, now, I love to listen to various successful people in different industries and hear their stories because it confirms to me that my observations in life are accurate and other people that are successful actually share my perspective. That feels good. They're almost kind of like a second witness of a natural law of life that I know to be true. And so recently I was watching YouTube sports news like I normally do. I just love it. And I came across a couple of videos by some big league sports analysts that I like to watch from time to time. One of them being Stephen A., the second Shannon Sharp. And they kind of talk about this idea of knowing your value that I thought was kind of interesting and worth sharing. So for this video though, we're only gonna watch the Stephen A. clip. I know, boo-hoo, so sorry. But it's a good one because he'll describe the hard lesson that he learned when he didn't know his value. So let's look at it and let's see what he says.
And I knew of the legend of Stephen A. Smith, but the guy I met at that time,
he really is a legend.
You were in this uncertain space.
Yeah, the ESPN let me go. We had a contract dispute. I obviously thought I was worth more than they thought I was worth at that particular moment in time. And I didn't do enough of my homework. And you know, I felt like I was worthy of more than they were offering me. And so,
but the bottom line, you'd been let go.
I was let go, and I was unemployed.
Yeah. Right. And that's when I met you.
That's when you met me.
So when he walked into, we all had little cubicles, and Stephen A. walked in. First I thought, is he doing politics now? Right. But I have to be honest, and I never shared this with you, I didn't see that legendary swagger.
Right.
And I
thought,
it was gone.
Everybody goes through this. Even some of the most successful people.
I was questioning myself in a lot of different areas because I knew that I came up in sports, and I knew that I knew what I was doing. And to be let go under those circumstances and to not have anybody in the sports world pursue you at all. I didn't have any job opportunities.
Everything. So you are called one of the greatest people.
Crazy, though.
You had fans, both athletes and outside. People were giving you exclusives. And then when you went in to negotiate the contract, that blew up, didn't go the way you thought.
That's right.
And nobody called you.
And nobody called me. Nobody. A decade ago, I was completely unemployed, living off of my savings.
Amazing.
Literally living off of my savings. And I had just become a father, so I was wondering what on earth was going to happen to my life, my career, whatever. But then my sisters and my mom were like, you know who you are. You know what you're made of. This is a bump in the road. You know, you've got to rebuild, but it doesn't start unless you look at yourself. And so they came to me and they challenged me to look at me and to recognize what mistakes I had made.
Had you played the game wrong?
Totally. You know, I was very confident, but more importantly, I was uninformed about my own worth. You know, I didn't study the business and master my art the way that I needed to in terms of understanding what your true value is. I looked at the fact that people were screaming my name in public and I was recognizable and thought that that was all that I needed. But I didn't pay attention to ratings, Q scores, and things of that nature, things that the business of sports journalism uses to gauge your value, what you mean to the company that you represent, what kind of revenue you generate, and things of that nature. And so when I went about the business of focusing on that, my whole world changed, because the next time I came to the negotiating table, once I had gotten back into the business, I knew exactly what I was worth and what I wasn't.
Did you know how to present yourself differently? You and I know when you walk in the room, you know, people have an expectation of who they're talking to.
Right.
Did you learn, you know, they call it the carrot stick approach. Did you learn, all right, let me bring this person in before I lower the boom of what I want?
I got something very simple to tell you that I figured out that I think will work for anybody in the world of corporate America and beyond. I wake up every day with two missions in mind. How do I make my bosses more money? And how do I get some of it? Very simple. Why
Pretty
is
simple.
that? Because if you wake up with that mindset, number one, the boss wants to hear what you have to say because they know that you're putting them first. And then they don't resent you trying to get some of it yourself. As a result, it forces or provokes conversation and dialogue between the two parties involved. You're listening to them, they're listening to you because everybody's trying to win. And that's what it comes down to.
There was a lot of truth that he spoke there. I just like that clip. And there's a lot of subtleties too. But what I found interesting about what Stephen A. said was how he thought he knew his value, right? Just like so many of us. But he learned the hard way that he really didn't. He didn't know what the business and his bosses cared about. And he didn't track his performance to know if he was meeting or exceeding it. And when he learned the hard way that he wasn't as valuable as he thought, and then he was let go. I mean, he went into a depression. It was really difficult. I mean, wow, right? But eventually he did his homework and he started to track his performance and he began to see reality more clearly about his worth to the organization and the business that he wanted to belong to. And he made his way back and it's amazing. And now, according to 2021, he's the 4th highest paid sports analyst in the United States. I mean, that's amazing. So really to sum up the message that I took away from Stephen A., knowing how to define the value you are bringing to the table by those you are working with is absolutely critical. And 2, to have performance metrics supporting your case actually begins to give you more confidence in what you're talking about. In the video by Shannon Sharp, see the link in the notes below. Wish we could have went over it, just not enough time. But he talks about, Tom Brady having to be at peace with himself and what he accomplished to feel good about retiring. And so there was a subtle idea in there that I picked up that I wanted to share. And that was that I began to realize that people who actually know their value, they don't actually have anything to prove. And they can relax a little bit more. They can be at peace, right? And so, you see, when I was a young professional, I didn't know why it was so important to know my value. And like Stephen A., when I learned from others that I was not meeting their needs, I too was greatly disappointed. Knowing your value helps you in so many ways. For example, you know your role, right? You don't try to do everything. Only what you're good at and you know what you can do. And then you know that it's the best. By only doing what you're good at and minimizing trying to prove yourself, it helps you to become more efficient because you begin to only be focused on how to do your job better, which leads to greater efficiency. This reduces your stress because you're only doing things that you know how to do and are easy to you. Therefore, you will enjoy it more and have more confidence that you can produce what others want at a higher level. And as you do this, you'll start to separate yourself from those who don't know their value and cannot produce at a high level like you. And you'll begin to see yourself become more and more successful over time. I mean, it's amazing. So I know this because, I remember when I was a little younger and me and my colleague, Dr. Jake, we were just creating LSA and we didn't know our value. And so, of course, this caused us to be more insecure. It caused us to work harder and not smarter. We tried to do the job we thought would help us outshine the other person. We'd get into numerous arguments because we thought our ideas were better. And we were always looking for approval when we thought we did a good job, instead of looking to see if what we produced added value to the overall effort. And so initially, I was the marketing director and he was the programs director. And both of us hated our jobs, but we did it anyways. And this caused us a lot of pain. And as a result, we weren't really that good at it. So we didn't see a lot of success initially. But one day, our mentor, Dr. Jacob, he called us in a meeting, sat us down, having seen this disorder between us two, and he thought, guys, I think we should realign our efforts. And he told me that it would be best if I switched roles with Jake and Jake with me. And so instead of doing marketing, I would do programs and vice versa. And at first, this really upset me. I thought, I'm way more valuable than Jake in the marketing area. And you know, Dr. Jacob, he didn't really respect me. And so, boy, that got under my skin. But you know, as time went on and Jake and I began to figure out who we were and what our value was, we began to realize that we were in the right role. Suddenly, we had less stress. We argued less. We produced more. And as a result, we had more success. It brought greater confidence and enjoyment in the work we did, which actually created more efficiency by like tenfold. And so the change was just, it was amazing. You know, a lot of times I've observed that our students are in survival mode. You know, they're just trying to work hard and do what they're told to show that they can add value. But if a student wants to be a leader and become someone who adds a lot of value to others, help them figure out who they are and what their value is. Help them measure their performance and to stay in their lane. Point out things that they're good at. Expose them to new activities that they might enjoy, which helps them to do these things and figure it out. If you can help someone find their value, they're guaranteed to be successful. If you haven't done this in the past, but want to improve your ability to help others, consider making a change today. And remember the old saying, what doesn't change remains the same.